Welcome to the Ken Hill Podcast. Oh my gosh. Yep. Here we go. Another podcast. And this one is probably going to run a little bit long. I've got a lot to say on this one, as usual. And we're going to break this podcast up into a couple of different sections. One, it's a little bit of an update on what's been going on over the summer, some plans for 2020, some trends I've been seeing, as well as a part two to podcast 69. And I'll explain that in a few minutes. So yeah, been a little while since my last podcast. And quite frankly, I've been busy. It was a crazy busy summer, the school, the race team, and a bunch of other projects that I've got going on. And I had multiple blocks of time where I'd literally be home for 24 or 36 hours in a 3 to 5 week period. I had quite a few of those. And I'm not asking for your pity, but I'm just saying, I'm not going to release a podcast until I've got something to say. You know, these podcasts are structured in a way for me to get a lot of information to you in a very short amount of time, so you can process it, listen to them over and over again. And I'm not going to compromise on that. I'm not going to do a podcast just to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast when I have something to say. So a little bit of housekeeping on the podcast before we get into it is, the podcasts are doing very, very well. Between all of the platforms that they're on, we're at well over 800,000 listens. So fantastic job, and thank you for everyone. Some of the changes that I wanted to make to the podcast this year did not happen, mainly because I just did not end up with the time, nor getting the right people in place to make that happen. And that's something that I am looking at restructuring for 2020, and I'm working on it. So the podcasts are doing great. And again, I appreciate everybody listening and using this as a reference for their writing, as well as having it as a library of reference for your writing. There's so many good things in there. So podcasts are doing great. Donations? Not so great. I'm going to guilt you a little bit on this. At over 800,000 listens, I think my income on these is about 0.05 of a penny for each listen. So not great. And I am going to guilt you a little bit on this because I do spend a lot of time using a lot of my resources and using my team for these podcasts. And it's simple. If I had $1 a listen, I could do a lot more things with this, and certainly expand it and make it better for you. So, you know what the bottom line is, if these podcasts mean something to you and you want me to continue to do them, then I urge you to put whatever value in there in a donation that is right for you. I certainly don't want you to donate if it's not there. But if there's value to you through these podcasts and they've made a difference in you and in your writing, hey, maybe they're worth more than what you're going out to lunch for on Friday. So anyway, there's my guilt trip on the donation part. Part of also this summer, a lot of things went on this summer in the update. I went to a lot of track days, did a lot of track day classroom sessions, which is what spurred the second part of this podcast. And I'll get into that on the second part. And honestly, the writing's not getting better. I spent a lot of time out on track. I spent a lot of time, listening to people, talking to track day providers. I'm actually consulting with a couple of race organizations because we're seeing more crashes and we're seeing more red flags. And that's definitely motivated me to want to take next steps with this and help people get better, get better with their writing, as well as a better pathway overall for their writing, and showing people that there is a trajectory for all of this. So you will see some things differently for 2020, and we'll work into that in just a second. So to give you an idea of what focused writing really looks like, we just got done with our RIC school kind of for the summer. And when we started our summer season at High Plains and moved it all the way through UMC and Thunder Hill, we completed 16,700 laps between instructors and students without a crash. 16,700 laps. And these laps were not ones that were held back by any speed limit. I personally set, I think at all but one track that we went to, I think I set personal bests on my reference bike, FZ10 on Q3s. Many of our other students and instructors set personal bests as well. So we weren't limiting ourselves on speed in any way, shape, or form. Instead, we focused on the process. We worked on the process, and that's where our progress came from. So 16,700 laps, it's completely doable. It's absolutely positively doable. And the same thing with your riding, which is, going to all these classroom sessions. What I found is that the people that came to every classroom session, the people that asked questions, the people that got engaged, hey, guess what? They got better. They got a lot better. So again, it's completely doable. So please hang in there with that and commit to getting better in this sport. Second part of this, of the updates is with a little bit with the RIC program and the RIC race team. Yeah, the RIC race team is not coming back for 2020. And I know there's been some rumors on that, but the RIC race team is not coming back. Adam and Josh did exactly what they said they were going to do. And really, it was a fantastic proof of concept for my methodology and what we do and how, the RIC program was building complete athletes. And I'm so glad that we did it. And the interesting thing, there's a lot to that. When I look back at that and I look back, okay, what was I supposed to learn from this? The things that I looked for things to learn, obviously, because I'm always trying to get better so you can get better. And technique-wise, I really didn't learn anything new. But what I learned was, I learned a lot about processes. I learned a lot about people, how I'm still, communicating with people and how they're reacting so I can do a better job of communicating. And we learned a ton about data acquisition. We've done a lot of work with data acquisition before, but of course, as you go quicker and things get more pointed, we have to look deeper into the data. And so, yeah, the data ended up being a really fun aspect of it, or a very frustrating aspect with it. But we learned so much on data acquisition. Found out that we really do have things in data that matter. And just as we worked on with what I mentioned about the technique part, I'm basically doubling down on my fundamentals, because anytime that I tried to stray and try to figure something out new, no, it didn't work. It really comes down to the fundamentals that I've developed, and the fundamentals in specifically the right order. And anytime I strayed from that, I found that things got difficult, right? They got tough. And instead, if I just made it more simple and again, stayed with those, things got much, much easier. Same thing when we applied that to data acquisition. So yeah, we learned a lot about processes, about how to make things communicate better, how people react to it, and what are the big key takeaways with data acquisition. I also found the other big takeaway for this summer was I really found out what airports sucked. Which routes I should fly and which routes I should not fly. So I did find out a lot about that, and I also have like the airline hotline number memorized as well. So all right, 2020 changes. Yeah, you're going to definitely see some things changing in 2020, as far as a little bit even with the school, but as far as even how this podcast is going to go, I'm working on it. And I really want to make some big steps with this podcast. So, okay. All right. So yes, I blabbed for 10 minutes, and let's finally get into to the meat of this podcast. And this is part 2 of a series. And the last podcast that we had, we talked about routines, right? What happened with this particular podcast, or this particular topic, is when we started working on this in classrooms, and we started getting people to build routines, I ended up having quite a few questions. People love the idea of a routine, and that was great, but they wanted to take it another step. What are the report cards to tell me if I'm doing things right in those routines, right? So in other words, if I'm out there looking for bike placement, really, what report card should I be looking for? And, or if I'm looking at a slow point in the corner, what should I be looking for? So it was fantastic that we got people more focused on what to look for. But now we have to give it a little bit more of, okay, how can we identify some of those things? So yeah, this podcast is really part 2 of podcast 69. So we've got our routines. Now we've got to work on what to see. What are those things? Let's take a step back. What is a routine? A routine is a set of fixed actions performed regularly, right? And if you can do them over and over again, you're doing those things because you've narrowed down what's most important to you. And of course, that quickly identifies what is important, but it quickly identifies what is not important. And it also quickly identifies when you're out of your routine, right? Because something just really, really glares at you. We need to take a look at some of those report cards that say, hey, am I in my routine? Am I on the right path? Or is this right? And we're going to dive down. We're going to dive into those. And within those, we're going to break them down into the order of the sport. We're going to break them down in the order of what we sort of should be looking at. The ones that I'm going to talk about, yeah, they're not just the only ones. And as I went through the classroom sessions and I suggested some report cards to look at when people came back in, of course, I asked, how did that go? What did you find out? And of course, again, this is all part of trying to get better for you. I found out a lot of people would add something to that with their own language. That's exactly it. That's exactly what we want. We want you to be able to have literally an infinite amount of these things that you can focus on to help get your writing better. So yeah, all right. When we look at report cards, the definition for us in report cards is it's really an evaluation of your performance. Or how about this? Let's make it really easy. How about, how am I doing? How am I doing? Right? So we need these things to say, how am I doing? What are the things that I should be looking at to say, how am I doing? I'm going to take you through a bunch of these. So you're going to have a chance to hear a lot of things in a short amount of time. And you're going to be able to write them down, go back and listen to these a bunch of times, whatever you have to do. So, all right. Some of the report cards that we're looking for, and again, we're going to go through the order of the sport. First one is, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for your session? And again, just willy-nilly writing, hey, the problem with that is that if you don't have a plan, then you don't have something to focus on. If you don't have focus, you don't have your technique engaged. So the first report card is, do I have a plan? And then we look at bike placement. The biggest report card that we look at with bike placement is our apexes. Thinking about, am I on my apexes? Then we look at track dynamics, exit corner, entry corner, balance corner. Which one is it and how am I approaching it in relationship to my exit, right? So an exit corner, right? Apex or the slow point comes early, entry corner, slow point comes late. Oh, that's weird. That kind of works into the next one. Where's the slow point of the corner? Where am I letting off the brake? How am I getting to my exit? How am I getting to my exit? Am I getting to my exit with the throttle? Am I getting to my exit taking away lean angle? Am I getting to my exit not having to let off the throttle when I drive? So fantastic things there that we can take a look at. Am I using all the track? That's a really simple one. And am I using all the track on the entry as well as the exit? And we'll give you a couple cool things for that when we talk about turn-in rate. So just right there, there's just a few things on bike placement that each singular one of those things that you can go work on when you ride, right? Those are report cards that you can go look at when you go and ride. Then the next thing we look at is our vision and our focus. There's so much to this one, but we're going to try to make it super, super easy for you. And the first one that we look at, let's get our eyes warmed up. It's as simple as doing some scanning in the pits, some scanning back and forth, telling yourself you have to move your eyes. Let's get warmed up. So let's get our eyes moving so you don't find them. You're not having to find your eyes when you get on the track, right? So let's do some eye warm-ups. What about your reference points? Do you have your reference points figured out? Do you have your reference points figured out on a track map? Okay, they've got some great vision things right there. What about a focus trigger? Do you have something that get your mind engaged, right? Get you something to turn your brain on for when you go ride. How about this? How about a refocus trigger? You have something that if you find yourself in a situation where your mind wanders or some weird situation out on track, that you need to be refocused, right? So what is your refocus trigger? Bunch of things there in vision and focus. Motor controls. Yeah, it's really interesting. In every sport, right, we see baseball warm up and football warm up and basketball warm up and volleyball warm up, blah, 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 blah. But we don't warm up for our sport. We need to warm up those motor controls. So let's make sure we do some warm ups with our motor controls. What have you done to warm up your motor controls? And that can just really simply be you sitting in your pit before you go ride, rocking your bike back and forth and applying the brake and applying the throttle, even with the engine off, to get your brain engaged on your motor controls. Right, so let's get our motor controls warmed up. Great things there. Find your first 5% and find your last 5%. Here's a good one for you. And this one came in a lot more often than I anticipated, even though I had mentioned it, but people really responded to this report card. How's my breathing? How's my breathing? Scott Russell, just have the most massive respect for Scott Russell. And Scott Russell would say, I make sure that I exhale at turn in. I exhale at turn in. I'm not holding my breath at turn in. What a fantastic report card to take a look at. So let's make sure we get our breathing going. And also, how about tightening your core muscles when you go to apply the throttle so you don't have such an abrupt throttle? So great thing to work on there. Brake adjustability. Brake adjustability. Yeah, this really starts with, am I approaching the corner with the brakes for what that corner has to offer? Right? What type of corner is it? Where should I be letting off the brakes? And again, as we mentioned before, an exit corner, right? It comes before the apex. Entry corner comes at or after the apex. Another great report card on brake adjustability. How much neutral throttle do I have? Man, that is one of the best report cards that we can look at in our riding, is how much neutral throttle that we have, because there's so many things that we can do to manipulate that. Another one we could look at as far as brake adjustability is draw your brake graph for each corner. What does it look like? When should I have initial brakes? When should I have speed control braking? And when should I have, your trail braking? When should I have my entry speed? Where should I have my roll speed? And where should I be letting off the brake? That exercise alone is a fantastic thing. So turn in rate, turn in point. So yeah, take a look at that and thinking about, okay, what is the radius? What is the radius of the corner? Is it something I'm going to turn in early and slowly, or is it something I'm going to turn in late and quickly? Where do I want to end up on the exit? Do I have a turn in reference point? And again, let's talk about exhaling at turn in. Another one that we want to think about as a great report card is, I want to be parallel with the side of the track at turn in, right? There's a millisecond of being parallel with the side of the track when I turn in. For a whole bunch of reasons. And if you go back and listen to some of the other podcasts, it talks a lot about that. So anyway, great report cards for turn in rate and turn in point. Body position. Man, we can really take this one to so many degrees, and this one becomes obviously very, very personal. Great report card, right? Are you sitting in the middle of the seat? We want to make sure that we're either left or right before applying the brakes, right? So let's make sure we're either left or right before we're applying the brakes. And we can take a look at, okay, is our outside thigh in the correct position, right? One of the biggest things we look at for correct body position is, where is our outside thigh located as it engages the gas tank? So, man, that's a huge, huge report card on body position. Same thing with your inside foot. Where's your inside foot? Is it in the right spot? Is the heel up, and is the heel engaged? Getting your core muscles tight. When you go to your brakes, are you using your palms to hold yourself in position with your elbows not locked, right? Are your palms in the right spot? Another great report card for you. How about this one? This is one that I personally use when I start getting a little, when I start riding a little bit tight or the pace comes up, is, can I wiggle my fingers after releasing the brakes? So if I go to release my brakes, I want to have my core engaged. I want my body set. I want to be able to just slightly wiggle my fingers so I know I just don't have this horrible death grip on the bars. So that goes right into, do I have weight on the inside arm after turn-in, right? We want to make sure we have that inside arm loose so the steering hand can move. Also, can I pick the bike up on acceleration, right? Is my body in a place where I can be taking away lean angle on the exit as I add throttle? Oh, some great report cards there for you. Man, we have a lot to work on, don't we? So if you're wondering, what should I be working on? Or what should I be looking for? What are the report cards for all of the things I should be doing? Well, man, we just got a bucket load of them. All of these are covered in the previous 69 podcasts, right? It's all there. And really, it's up to you to spend the time to listen to them, write your notes, and get better. So yeah, this podcast, I really wanted this to be something where we got a little bit of an update of what my summer was like. And a lot of the things that I learned over the summer, as well as sort of what the consensus is from the last podcast, which is, hey, you know what? The routine is great, fantastic, but let's take it a step further. So there you go. You got tons to work on for next time, and I hope to see you at the track. Copyright 2019, Ken Hill Coaching.